Hello everyone. So this is going to be a different kind of video once again. I seem to say that every couple of videos. I'm going to be exploring some of the interesting data. Now I'm going to make this bigger than myself so we can have a better look at it. Okay, so I've got Google Trends up right now. Google Trends is a very useful tool if you know how to read it. 100% represents right here, you can see where my cursor is. Hopefully you can see that. 100% represents the maximum amount of growth that has happened in the search trend. And the rest here is kind of proportional and sort of skewed in a sense towards essentially being pinned towards whatever the value is. So it's a proportional calculation. In other words, everything is compared to the top, not the bottom. So we see in the 1st of January 2004, there was a relatively low number of search terms for searches for Pokemon. This had a little bit of a peak in 2015-2016. This is actually a notable event in Pokemon's history. This is just the search term Pokemon TCG, by the way. There was a notable bump. This aligns with when the 20th anniversary came out, so there was something of an interest. And all the way along, we see everything sort of normal, and then 2025, boom, everything goes absolutely insane. Well, this tells us that we're in a bit of a peak here, because this is 2015 till now. And we are seeing as well that we are coming out of the peak, and more than likely everything will start to look like this. So search terms are a good indicator. They're not 100% an indicator, but they're a good indicator of telling us precisely what people are interested in, because Google is the most popular search tool out there, and as a result, this is an important piece of information. Google Trends is free, by the way. You can play with it as much as you like. Now, similar story here. We see in 2004 till present, again, moderate interest, all the way along. This was literally my childhood, most of this into early teens, towards adulthood. Most of the time people were not interested in Pokemon, and then boom, massive interest. In, what is this? July 2016, rather. Again, that aligns with the 20th anniversary. They were doing lots of events. They were doing lots of things that made people interested in the whole thing. And as a result, people were very, very interested in the game, and were interested in the franchise. And now the search terms look much more flat. Again, this is relatively speaking. If we change the scale, etc., it will look different, but this is a good indicator of some of the interest. Now, of course, like I said, this peak as well will throw all of the other data off in a sense. Just take these two different points. Everybody becomes interested in 2025 in the Pokemon TCG, and all of a sudden everybody's rushing to it. Well, we don't see that here. We don't see people searching for just Pokemon. We see people searching for Pokemon TCG, which tells us everything we need to know, I think. And this pattern as well, if we just go into zooming in, this might be messy, Let's see. 2025. Yeah, it's kind of messy. Let's see. Past 5 years might be a good view. Yeah, that's a bubble. This is what a bubble looks like. And bubble rises. Literally, it lasted what? Maybe November 2024, December 2024, March 2025, May 2025. That's when it started to pop. And we're still getting towards it popping now. It's still deflating. So, again, this is based on the interest of people in the TCG. Now, let's kind of put them both together. Pokemon search term. When you plot them together, it actually gives us the sort of relative interest. And we will go back to, what was it, first? The first 2004, and we'll go to today. Did that work? No. Technical difficulties. Apply. Yeah, the data is just, it just shows you that there really isn't a huge interest in the Pokemon TCG relative to Pokemon itself, which is to be expected. Pokemon TCG is niche. Pokemon itself is not niche. So again, we get the peak around 2016, 20th anniversary. But this data as well, when we extrapolate it further, we can't do that with this tool. It's a very simple tool. We'll have another peak just like this around the 30th anniversary. Do with that information what you will. Because none of this is about money. This data doesn't give you any information about spending habits, investment, or anything like that. This information is very simple. It just says when things were interesting to people. And when we go back to the simple view, just go back to Pokemon. Pokemon peaks around its anniversaries. So 20th anniversary, 25th anniversary, and the TCG, the interest in that, is recent. So again, I'm not a investment person. I'm not a person who's going to tell you how to spend your money. But it really does appear like we are... Well, one of two things is going to happen. We're going to have another peak, and it'll be a peak through the roof that will completely blow the 2016 peak out of the water. This was the 20th anniversary, remember? And it will be all the way up here, and this will look dwarfed by comparison. The Pokemon explosion of recent will look dwarfed by comparison. Or there will be zero fanfare and zero interest in it because nobody has access to the products, and all of the fan interest and all of the fan, lovey-dovey, gentle, kind feelings will fade away. Now, which of those comes true, I'm not sure. But I would be remiss to not give you my opinion on this topic. So if you just want analysis of the data, comparing some interesting search terms, switch off now. If you don't want to hear the opinions of a very opinionated cat/fat guy, that's on you. Just, like I said, switch off if you don't want to hear anything else. I know which of those is easier to cope with if you're a person who likes to collect and likes Pokemon and values this game and values the cards as not necessarily as game pieces. I'll make another video on that as well, because that's another thing that's been annoying me. People talking about the game piece army. I just think that these cards should be worth a realistic amount of money. These cards should not be worth ridiculous amounts of money. Again, I am somebody who has profited from this. Not ridiculously high. I've not sold a huge amount of any particular cards really, but I have profited off of this boom in Pokemon. But I also realize that it can't go on forever. And it evidently won't go on forever. So when people are showing me their portfolios, their card portfolios, with sealed product and all of that, and they're coming up on eBay, people having as the thing that they're selling instead of just the products, they're having like pictures of graphs going down, going, please buy my portfolio before it goes down. I feel two things. I feel like laughing, and I kind of feel like crying, because I'm like, you're a young person, guaranteed 110%. You're a young person, and you got tricked into spending £5,000, £6,000, £7,000 on shit cardboard because you wanted a short-term gain. Why? Why would you do that? You wanted to get rich quick. It doesn't work like that. The TCG scene is not like that. It's never been like that. So, I believe, again, going back to the graphs, I genuinely believe Pokemon will always exist. I think it will always have, it won't have these big peaks, probably. It might calm down after it might calm down after a few years. And then another anniversary will come along, and they'll have another peak, and it'll just continue and continue. That's fine. Pokemon as a hobby has always been very cheap to get involved in. Pokemon TCG, however, that's the problem. That's where you end up with this. Right here, again, this is where we started to see the scalping. And there are other search terms I could add to this to make it even more interesting, but you get the point. To conclude, Pokemon will live forever, or as long as they continue to produce it. The trading card game won't live forever. If it continues to be inaccessible to everybody, kids, grandparents who want to get it for their kids, dads who want to teach the kids how to play the game, it won't last. People right now have a mania about this. And we, again, the point of the graph, we see precisely when this started. Here, November 2024. And when it started, people started to go absolutely insane and see dollar signs over their eyes, or whatever the regional currency is. People started to see this as an investment opportunity. It isn't one. It can't sustain being one. And it's just not going to last. The number of portfolios I have seen online where people are selling huge amounts of their product for, yes, more than manufacturer recommended retail price, MSRP, but not more than the invested amount that you would expect. We see more and more of that. And I see it every day. People going, oh my god, please buy my collection, I'm going to lose all of my money. It's not worth it. No, just don't do it, in my opinion. I said I wouldn't give my opinion, but again, I go between being a collector, a person who wants to sell this, like sell these cards, a person who wants to play this game, which I do want to play this game, but could never afford it. And I'm not quick enough to actually get into the stores and buy these cards before they go out of stock. And I'm a person who wants to pass this game on, pass this game along to the next generation. Well, I can't, because there's nothing to pass on. Right now, as I argued in my video day before yesterday, from uploading this video, when I was talking about how Pokemon needs to change its model and stop being so damn greedy and starve off the leeches or the parasites that are on it. I still think that. I still think it's true. And this data kind of shows that, in my opinion. In your opinion, you could say this data represents opportunity. And the interest in Pokemon has never been so high. Okay, you can argue that. I'd even agree with you on some optimistic days. Most of the time, recently, I can't even get a packet of cards, for God's sake. Our locals doesn't have them. Get them in stock and they're out the door. They're gone. So where does that leave the general public? The consumers of the product? Nowhere. High and dry. Anyway, I won't claim that this is an unbiased view of the data. The first half, perhaps. Second half, no. The second half is a furious look at a situation that is kind of driven by the statistics, the search terms, etc., and an analysis of what has gone on. So yeah, I think I'm done talking about Pokemon for a while. It's really, really getting to me. Unless some 30th news appears, I'm just not talking about it. Thank you for listening.